Until the moment she saw the diagnosis, the old woman finally realized she had misunderstood her daughter-in-law for 6 long years. The one who truly ended her family line turned out to be her own son. It turned out her son had been suffering from azoospermia all along. 6 years ago the woman and her husband were involved in a tragic car accident. The accident not only took away her soon-to-be-born baby, it also injured her husband and left him with complete infertility. To protect her husband's dignity, the woman chose to hide the truth and carry the cruel title of infertility alone. Fortunately, her husband had always defended her with sincere devotion. The woman believed they could continue living happily like this. Yet on a day 6 years later, she suddenly discovered that her husband had gotten his young secretary pregnant. He even begged his wife to accept the child and raise it together. He said the secretary would leave once she gave birth. The woman never imagined that her husband would not only cheat but also try to use their deceased daughter's name. In anger, she prepared to tell him the secret of his infertility. But the secretary suddenly clutched her stomach in pain and interrupted her. Her husband immediately wrapped his arms around the secretary and rushed her toward the clinic. In that moment, the woman finally understood her husband had changed. After returning home, she took out a divorce agreement. But then the maid hurried over, saying the secretary had burned her daughter's belongings. The anxious woman rushed outside only to find her baby's belongings had already been burned beyond recognition. The woman could no longer hold back and pushed the secretary's hand toward the fire pit. The frightened secretary begged repeatedly. Hearing the commotion, the husband ran out and without hesitation shoved the woman away. He completely ignored the fact that her hand had been burned by the fire. He even scolded his wife for harming the secretary's child, saying their previous child was already gone. Burned belongings were nothing important. After speaking, he picked up the secretary and rushed to the hospital. The woman never imagined her husband could forget 6 years of love because of the secretary's unborn child. Since things had come to this, she no longer needed to save face for them, so she went straight to the hospital with the divorce papers. Yet the moment the old woman saw her, she grabbed a stick and charged toward her. However, the woman caught the stick in one quick motion. She angrily declared she would no longer endure her mother-in-law's bullying. Then she pushed the old woman to the ground. At the moment the woman lifted the stick, the husband arrived just in time to save his mother. He did not even ask what happened and immediately accused the woman of attacking his mother. He even kindly told her to kneel and apologize to his mother, then generously agreed to let the secretary's child be raised as their own, so he could persuade his mother not to argue anymore. The woman stood frozen in disbelief. He actually expected her to live with and raise his lover's child. The old woman said, "If you don't want to kneel, fine. Then just publicly acknowledge the secretary's child." The husband quickly agreed and said they would hold a family banquet tomorrow. He would inform all relatives that their family finally had an heir, and she would acknowledge the child in front of everyone. When the woman heard this, she knew her chance had come. As long as he signed the papers, she would agree. The husband was completely consumed by the child and didn't think at all. He assumed the woman feared he would break his word, so he signed the guarantee without hesitation. He had no idea that from this moment on his good days were finished. The woman briskly walked out of the ward with the divorce agreement. Once outside, she immediately called the doctor, asking him to return the report proving her husband's infertility. The next morning, the front of the husband's house was already filled with relatives. The woman decided to use this day to finally break free from his family. At that moment, she overheard the secretary speaking excitedly with a stranger. The secretary said once she gave birth, she would receive generous shares, and after getting the shares, she would drive the entire family out. The woman originally thought the secretary only wanted to marry into wealth. She never expected her ambition to be so huge. Since that was the case, she would deal with them together. She then prepared herself and arrived at the banquet. She directly revealed her husband's secret plan to adopt his lover's child as her own, and let the child inherit the family assets. The husband was stunned. He quickly changed his words, saying the child would become the company's heir, and asked the uncles to take good care of him. The woman coldly replied that a lover's child was not worthy of being an heir. The old woman angrily insisted that the child was indeed the heir. She then pulled out a share transfer contract, saying she would give half of her company shares to her future grandson today. The woman realized the old woman was truly determined, so she sarcastically said she was not afraid the child might not be her son's bloodline. The old woman exploded and ordered the woman to shut up. She said the woman was slandering the secretary because she herself could not have children, that she could never compare to the gentle sweet secretary, that the secretary's baby would surely be filial. After saying that, she happily signed her name on the contract. The secretary, seeing the shares were hers, planned to find an excuse to slip away, but the old woman kept scolding the woman, saying she should thank the secretary for continuing their family line, otherwise she would be the family's sinner. Then she handed the woman a cup of tea and told her to apologize to the secretary. The secretary saw her opportunity. She took the cup and secretly dropped a needle inside. Acting sweet, she said their past conflicts should be forgotten and she forgave her. She then drank the tea in one gulp. Immediately after, she spit out a mouthful of blood. The old woman rushed to support her, nervously worried about the baby. Everyone saw the needle on the floor. They instantly assumed the woman had put it in the tea. The secretary pretended to hold her stomach, crying that she needed to go to the hospital. The woman instantly realized the secretary was trying to escape, so she blocked their way. Everyone angrily asked what she was trying to do. They accused her of wanting to harm someone else's child because she could not have one. They even said she was trying to end the family line. The old woman furiously accused her of being malicious, saying she wanted to kill her only precious grandchild. Then she grabbed a cup and threw it at the woman, but the woman quickly dodged. She then pulled out her husband's medical report, furiously asking the old woman whose problem it really was. The old woman snatched the report and froze, because her son was infertile and could never have a child.